It's Monday, March 30th, and this is now on HNN.
We could get in the range of 100,000 to 200,000 fatalities.
Hotspots around the country are grappling with unprecedented coronavirus cases. I'm Elise Preston in New York, the country's epicenter, with more on how states are hoping makeshift hospitals will make a difference.
Here at home, a TSA screening officer at Honolulu's airport tests positive.
It's putting our community at risk. We need authorities to be taking much stronger action.
Some visitors and residents in Hawaii are not complying with social distancing guidelines, and we've got the pictures to prove it.
With salons and barbershops shut down, how long can Americans go without a haircut? I'm Michael George with how some people are learning to do it themselves.
Now, it's important for you guys to know that I was asymptomatic.
These stories plus actor Daniel Day Kim is now coronavirus free, coming up on This Is Now.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jonathan, your director producer, alongside Ashley. It's Monday, and we got some breaking news from the Department of Health we're going to start with.
Another big jump in coronavirus cases today, bringing Hawaii's count now over 200. The state health department is reporting 29 new cases for a statewide total of 209. Of the new infections, 16 are on Oahu, 5 on Maui, 3 on Hawaii Island, and 5 are still pending. Meanwhile, at the state capitol, the Hawaii State House Committee on COVID-19 just held a briefing. Let's hear what Hawaii Food Bank CEO Ron Mizutani had to say to lawmakers.
Execute the best we can. We're definitely adjusted our business practices with safety in mind, but the needs are growing. Distribution needs have increased about 30% in the last couple of weeks. Food donations, meantime, have come to a slow. For the community, it's come to a stop. We're on pace right now to distribute more than 1.5 million pounds of food on a month. That's significant. So maybe we do 1 million pounds a month every on a daily basis to the 1 in 8 who are hungry. Right now, those needs are spiking and growing. Of that 1.5 million, we anticipate about 30% of that will be in fresh produce. We want to be a part of the conversation of good health.
That's the CEO of the food bank talking there. Some alarming numbers from here locally. Nationally, some more alarming numbers. The United States closing in on nearly 150,000 COVID-19 cases nationwide.
And there are hotspots around the country, including Louisiana, New Jersey, Michigan, Washington State, and California. But the epicenter remains New York, where there are now more than 66,000 cases. Here's Elise Preston.
The Naval Hospital ship Comfort arrived in New York City ahead of schedule Monday to relieve the pressure on hospitals overwhelmed by the coronavirus crisis.
We are not alone. Our nation is helping us in our hour of need.
The Comfort has 1,000 beds and will treat non-coronavirus patients. Workers are also building an emergency hospital in Central Park near Mount Sinai Health System. The 68-bed field hospital will serve as a respiratory care unit. These field hospitals are just the start. New York City's mayor says the city needs to triple the amount of hospital beds by May. In Maryland, a drive-through screening location opened in the parking lot of FedEx Field. Maryland's governor issued a stay-at-home directive.
We are no longer asking or suggesting that Marylanders stay home. We are directing them to do so.
At one Maryland nursing home, 67 residents have tested positive, and more than 24 staff members are showing symptoms. The governors of Oklahoma and Texas say anyone traveling to their states from areas with hotspots will need to self-quarantine. Both are close to Louisiana, which has the second highest number of coronavirus deaths per capita.
Understand that executive orders that I issue about travel is keenly focused on one main goal, and that is to reduce importing COVID-19 into the state of Texas.
FEMA tweeted photos of a shipment of protective equipment that landed in New York Sunday. The international shipment included more than 130,000 N95 face masks and nearly 2 million face masks and gowns. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
And back here at home, the Transportation Security Administration has confirmed that a screening officer in Honolulu has tested positive for COVID-19. Officials say the employee last worked on March 16th at Security Checkpoint 1 at Daniel K. Inouye International Airport. The TSA agent was reportedly working the evening shift and was not showing symptoms at the time. Other TSA employees who may have come into contact with that person have been alerted. The employee with coronavirus is reported to be at home resting. And over the weekend, we confirmed that a Honolulu firefighter contracted the virus. That person works out of Station 32 in Kalihi'uka. The Hawaii Firefighters Association says the individual is in quarantine at home, and according to an HFD spokesman, the firefighter was infected while on personal leave and no other personnel have been exposed to the virus. An HPD officer has also come down with the virus. That officer is based at HPD headquarters and displayed symptoms while on the job. We're told the department cleaned equipment and fellow officers have been tested.
All right, just moments ago, a task force briefing news conference wrapped up at the White House. The president speaking there. I want to play a little bit of the sound from him. He was emphasizing the idea of a nationwide stay-at-home order is probably unlikely. Let's listen to the sound from him.
Today we reached a historic milestone in our war against the coronavirus. Over 1 million Americans have now been tested, more than any other country by far, not even close, and tested accurately.
Meanwhile, the president and vice president held a conference call with the nation's governors earlier as the federal government continues to work with states to respond to the pandemic. President Trump walked back his stated goal of reopening the country by Easter yesterday on the advice of his task force team. Skylar Henry reports from the White House.
Several rural state governors told President Trump they're having a hard time securing medical supplies and tests, as much of the federal focus has been on hard-hit urban areas. Those pleas come one day after the president extended social distancing guidelines through April 30th. In an interview with Fox News Channel, the president said his top health experts cautioned against pulling the guidelines too soon.
The worst that could happen is you do it too early and all of a sudden it comes back. That makes it more difficult.
The president's top health experts are warning against ignoring those guidelines, predicting the death toll could climb to hundreds of thousands in the U.S.
We have to really tell the American people that they have to do more, to stay inside, to wash their hands, to social distance, and to assume that other people are infected even if they look asymptomatic.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says small business loans will be available Friday, 1 week after President Trump signed the massive economic stimulus Phase 3 bill into law. President Trump proclaimed March 30th National Doctors Day, praising the doctors and medical professionals on the front lines of battling the coronavirus. The president says he's considering ways of giving healthcare professionals hazard pay or bonuses, something some House Democrats would also like to see in a Phase 4 stimulus bill.
We're looking at that as either an amendment or something.
General Motors released these photographs of their efforts to make ventilators and face masks after the president invoked the Defense Production Act to compel the company to make more. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Johnson & Johnson announced today it could test a coronavirus vaccine by September. The company partnered up with the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. They have committed $1 billion to fund vaccine research, development, and clinical testing, and officials believe the first batch of vaccines could be ready by early next year. Johnson & Johnson says as the world's largest healthcare company, it feels a deep responsibility to use its resources to fight the pandemic. In Spain, the government has enforced even tighter stay-at-home rules for its 47 million people as the country overtook China as the nation with the third highest number of reported infections in the world. But the new measures came under attack from business leaders who say the economy is being hurt beyond repair. The president of the country's main business association says the stricter measures would create a grave economic problem that could also lead to a social problem. Hospitals there are also seeing scores of medical workers falling ill.
Speaking of Europe, Italy is reporting somewhat of a slowdown in rates of new cases. The country has the second highest number of infections, now has the most deaths. Now we got a reporter there in Rome. Let's check in with Matt Bradley.
In the past 2 weeks since I've gotten here to Rome, we've seen this going up and down, this number. And, we saw 919 dead just on Friday, the highest of any country in any single day since this whole crisis began. In the past 2 days, that number has decreased. The death rate is a little bit more arbitrary than other indicators. So we can't really draw a lot of optimism just from seeing 1 or 2 or even 3 or 4 days of regular declining death rates. But it is true that Italy has flattened the curve. What that really means is that the number of new positive cases has been steadily declining. It's now around 6%. It's gone down from closer to 10% in just the last 2 weeks. That does mean that the rate of transmission of this disease is no longer accelerating.
If you imagine the lockdowns and the stringent measures that were put in place are now in place between 2 and 3 weeks in Italy at different levels in different places, we should start to see a stabilization.
There is reason for optimism, and the Italian authorities are starting to see just a tiny glimpse of the effect of this nationwide lockdown in some of the statistics. The question is whether or not they're going to be able to maintain it.
Society-wide measures are difficult. They are not easy, and they are hurting people. But the alternative is even worse.
We've heard from Italian media that it could be extended for another 2 weeks. Matt Bradley, NBC News, Rome.
Thank you, Matt, for that report from Rome there. Let's turn it over to Wall Street. We got some closing numbers for you. The Dow is up today. Hey, we're up over 22,000 points again. That's up more than 3%. That's 690 points. And now, while it might seem the pandemic has the economy on hold a bit, many of you we know are worried about how you're going to pay your rent, your mortgage. That's so many folks out there wondering that same question. Some government leaders say there is some things out there to help. Our Casey Lund went looking for answers this morning, filed this report.
A lot of us are waiting on and looking forward to that money from the stimulus package that was passed by Congress last week, but the Treasury Department says that could still be, at the very earliest, a couple weeks from getting into your mailbox. So what do we do in the meantime for folks that have lost their job and may be struggling to pay their rent or their mortgage? Well, Senator Brian Schatz released an online guide for homeowners with some resources. Some of that includes a delay in payment for homeowners with a federally backed mortgage. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security Act allows homeowners with mortgages backed by the FHA, USDA, VA, HUD Section 184A, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac to be eligible for a loan forbearance for up to a full year without additional interest, fees, or penalties. Now, if you rent your home, you should know there's a moratorium on evictions for most renters through the month of July. Schatz says the best thing you can do is be proactive right now and start making these arrangements, educating yourselves on all the options that are out there. And if you're worried about making that April payment or your May payment, you should call your mortgage servicer, your landlord, or your housing counselor to see if you're eligible for either forbearance or protection against being evicted if you're a renter. Senator Schatz says that the majority of Hawaii homeowners should be able to take advantage of these programs because about 60% of the state's mortgages are federally backed. Now, if you have questions, you want to know if you're eligible, just go to hawaiinewsnow.com.
All right, thanks, Casey. Macy's says it's furloughing the majority of its nearly 130,000 employees, but workers will continue to receive health benefits through May. All of Macy's stores have been closed since March 18th, with its online business still open, but executives say the company has lost the majority of its sales because of the store closures. The retailer says it will remain shut down until it's safe to reopen.
So a lot of folks here at H&N and across the state and the nation are starting to work from home more and more. And, many of them are winding up on the couch or that comfy lazy boy, but that can lead to some problems, some health problems. You should see my setup at home. I actually made it so it's a standing desk.
Good.
But some people out there are complaining of some back pain. Wendy Gillette has more on what you can do to ease it.
Like many of us, Andrew Falcone is working from home. The change in his work environment has been a real pain.
I have chronic back issues that are due to my severely flat feet. So going from the pleasantries of the office with ergonomic furniture to making do with a New York City apartment has definitely been a difference.
He's not alone. Since we're not working at our usual desks, our bodies are feeling the aches and pains from poor posture.
You may be working off your couch or on your bed, and so you tend to have more of a rounded posture.
Orthopedic surgeon Dr. Rahul Shah says a flat surface is ideal. Make sure the keyboard is just within arm's length with your elbows bent.
The neck is basically taken care of by looking straight ahead or looking down about 10 degrees. For the low back, you want to try and sit up in your chair as best as you can and taking breaks every 20 to 30 minutes if you can.
If you are having aches and pains from the long hours in front of the computer, don't forget to get your regular basic exercise daily because it can help.
We're all experiencing a new normal. Because of that, we may not be doing our other aerobic activities like walking, like going over and saying hello to a colleague. It's important to make sure that we keep that as part of our routine so that we don't get fatigued easily doing our work from home.
Andrew made this makeshift standing desk at his kitchen counter.
Doing some stretching and some, light workouts within the apartment as well, just to kind of stay loose, because typically it's when things get tight, that's when things start to cause pain.
He says he finds spending less time sitting is definitely helping his back. Wendy Gillette, CBS News, New York.
All right, good advice there. And these next two stories you're about to tell us about have really been trending hard on our Facebook group. The first one's about Whole Foods.
Right, so several groups of workers who are considered essential during the pandemic say they are planning work stoppages as ways to get improved safety measures and paid leave. Now tomorrow, Whole Foods employees have planned a sick out over demands for better conditions, including double pay, because of the hazards of working during the outbreak. Now workers say social distancing isn't always followed and cleaning supplies are not always readily available. And with the number of cases in Hawaii on the rise, officials have been encouraging social distancing, but some people aren't complying. Here's Rick Desog.
This was the scene at a Waikiki hostel. At least 16 people, mostly tourists, drinking and socializing in close quarters, in apparent violation of the state's social gathering restrictions.
That's so irresponsible. It's putting our community at risk. We need authorities to be taking much stronger action. Those need to be identified. They need to be called in. They need to be shut down.
The gathering was shut down by police after neighbors filed noise complaints. They say the parties were a regular occurrence even after the state banned mass gatherings. Typically, this hostel houses 4 people per room, but since the shutdown order was issued, most have checked out. The hostel's management says that most of the guests have been on the island before the state's mandatory 14-day quarantine went into effect. It says it's taken appropriate action since. Quote, guests are not allowed to congregate, and we do have signs informing guests to follow social distancing. However, on this occasion, we were unable to fully enforce this due to the short staffing. Tourists aren't the only ones being accused of violating Hawaii's mass gathering ban. Here in Waianae, dozens, if not hundreds of people amass at this home on Pa'akea Road every weekend, despite repeated complaints by neighbors.
We know there's some questionable activity that's going on, that the community know that there's some kind of so-called chicken fighting, gambling, and all that kind of stuff.
He says it's not the alleged illegal activity, but the gathering itself that he's worried about.
My concern is any kind of large gatherings, they should just kind of, stop it. Take this thing real seriously. Just this whole virus thing is not a game.
Rick Desog, Hawaii News Now.
Meanwhile, actor Daniel Day Kim is now coronavirus-free. He shared an update on his Instagram to say he's feeling better, but not before a small setback after finishing his treatment.
Now, it's important for you guys to know that I was asymptomatic during all of this time. But as the flight was close to landing, I started noticing some scratchiness in my throat, which is unlike how I usually get sick. So when I landed, I called my family doctor in Hawaii, and he told me to monitor my symptoms. To be safe, when I got home, I quarantined myself in a room in the house and tried to rest on my own. But later that night, I started feeling tightness in my chest, body aches, and my temperature started to rise. So he then told me to get tested.
And that was Daniel Day Kim's announcement on Instagram about when he got sick. Now, he says he is no longer in self-isolation, but he is abiding by the stay-at-home order while he is at home here on Oahu.
Another update to some celebrities that came down with the virus too, right?
Right. Meanwhile, Tom Hanks and wife Rita Wilson are back in the U.S. The couple tested positive for coronavirus earlier this month in Australia, where Hanks was working on a movie about Elvis Presley. Now, over the weekend, Hanks posted on Twitter that he and his wife are back home, sheltering in place and practicing social distancing. He thanked those in Australia who looked after them, along with those who sent well wishes.
And one more positive update, Prince Charles is out of isolation as well. He was diagnosed last week with coronavirus, and he followed the guidelines there in the UK. They say 1 week, while we say 2 weeks here in the US. Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, remains in self-isolation, monitoring for symptoms there. All right, let's talk about something else, because I know you've had to deal with this weekend.
And you're kind of dealing with this issue too.
Yeah, I got some curls coming in. We're talking about haircuts, folks, and a lot of people, it sounds sort of trivial, but a lot of people are actually struggling to figure out what to do about this, right?
So with only essential businesses open, that doesn't include hair salons or nail salons or any of those beauty appointments. So a lot of Americans are taking matters literally into their own hands. Here's Michael George.
Getting a haircut or a manicure is no longer an option for most Americans. Businesses are shut down because of the coronavirus. And that has people like Pam Wertheimer wondering, when can she get her hair colored again?
My roots are coming in, but I'm willing to, go old school hippie.
I'm blending it. I've seen this happen before.
So some are trying to do it on their own, with mixed results.
And last night, I got an idea. I can cut hair.
Pop singer Pink showed her attempt at a do-it-yourself haircut on a post titled Haircuts and Drinking.
What do you think? Good luck?
Hi guys, thanks for joining me.
Stylist Gabby Fishman is out of work after her salon shut down. She decided to post a styling instructional video on YouTube.
I'm gonna go back and forth from corner to corner.
You're pulling out, all right? Not up and over, up and out.
There are a number of other tutorials out there.
So you're just gonna take this and apply it to all your nail. Then I like to do what I call halo sections.
These videos don't make Gabby any money. She just wanted to do something to help her clients.
And I understand that they're gonna be at home with their kids. They're gonna need to cut their kids' hair eventually. It's not about me, it's about them.
The average person who's kind of thinking boy, it might be a month or who knows how long before I get a haircut, what would you tell them right now?
We're going to be seeing a lot of roots. We're going to be seeing a lot of beards. Just get used to it.
And America will have some time to get used to it, with salons shut down indefinitely. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Really good tips there, that up and out. Up and out. Now,
it's getting real out there.
Now, sorry, Hawks. So we got some video here we got to show. This was Ashley's attempt this weekend.
Yeah, I know. So my boyfriend needed a haircut really bad, but he can't go anywhere, obviously. So he trusted me to do it. I watched...
Oh, look at that tie, little pony up there.
Yeah, I watched 3 YouTube videos before, so I'm pretty much a professional. And it was a lot of pressure because he is an essential worker, so it's not like if I messed up, he would just be hiding at home. He actually has to be at work today. And I think I did pretty good.
Yeah, it was more of a trim there. You didn't do a full-on cut, right?
Yeah, but there were moments where I was like, oh, crap, I definitely ruined it.
I imagine around the ears was the toughest spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I will take you up for a haircut later this week if I don't figure it out myself. Before then, we're going to show you this. We're talking about these haircuts. Okay, this is from our main 5 o'clock anchor, Stephanie Lum. This is adorable, but I don't know how she felt about it when it happened. That's one of her sons there, and she says, this is what her Facebook post says. This is what being stuck at home does to you. Her little one got a hold of the baby nail scissors in the bathroom and decided to cut his hair. Oh my gosh, he sort of has a reverse mohawk.
I love it.
That's pretty amazing. And he still got a popsicle after all that. So, hey, he wasn't in too much trouble. All right, guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now today. We got some press conferences coming up. We have a 1 p.m. press conference with Maui's mayor. Ashley's going to be on the phone with that, asking questions. And then at 2:30, the governor is expected to give a press conference. We plan on giving that to you live on our digital platforms along with our TV stations as well. So you'll have plenty of ways to watch it. Look for those push alerts. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter and for our hub group on Facebook. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Bye.